Hey, morning, guys. It is March 21st, and Chambers is teaching from Galatians 2 today. It's the verse that it shows up in a lot of songs, and I'm sure you've heard it preached, and you've maybe even said it yourself. I've been crucified with Christ. The NIV puts it. That whole chapter is a really good one. It's talking about actually living outside of the faith in the law to justify us, and taking that and putting it kind of reconstructing the faith of the Jew that Paul is talking about. They had faith in the law and their observance of the law, and they then had to take that and kind of break that. In all honesty, that's what Jesus did, and give up the right to themselves is one of the things. My claim to my right to myself. We'll get that in a minute. Get to that in a minute. But basically, redirect that faith to Jesus instead of the law. And so he's talking through with his. Paul is talking about his dealings with Peter, James, and John, and even those that would impose the law on the Gentiles. And so all that to say that faith is wholly placed in Jesus. And then he turns a little bit and he talks about being crucified with Christ and what that means. And here's where my thinking changed a little bit this morning, actually. He talks about to turn all emotional impressions and intellectual beliefs into a moral verdict against the disposition of sin, vis-a-vis my claim to my right to myself. We've heard that before with Chambers. My claim to my right to myself. We often misconstrue the crucifixion and how we are to relate to it. If you think about the crucifixion, we say, well, I'm willing to die. I'm willing to lay down my life, my comfort. I'm willing to take on suffering, persecution, even scorn and hatred. But if you think about at the root what Jesus was doing on the cross, was not just laying down his life, he was submitting himself completely to the will of the Father. And he trusted, as he laid down his life on the cross, he trusted the Father's will to be done. And you can imagine, well, maybe we can't, but one of the things that I think we stop short of that kind of higher calling, if you will, to be crucified with Christ. We think it's to suffer like Christ suffered, to be scorned and hated like Christ was hated, and to give up our lives, our freedom. And it's more than that. It's different than that. It is to submit ourselves to God's will. And to be crucified with him means to be identified, as Chambers says here, to be identified with him in his death. And what his death meant. His death meant that he was subject to the will of God. It was God's good pleasure I'm trying to think of what this verse is. There's a verse that says it was not just God's will, but God's pleasure to crush him, which because of what it accomplished. And that's what Jesus was. He was subjecting himself to the will of the Father, who basically would crush him. And at the end here, Chambers says, it is no longer faith in faith, but faith which has overleapt all conscious bounds, the identical faith of the Son of God. And that's where it really kind of directed me to this kind of different understanding. It is a faith, it's not our faith. We take on the faith of Jesus. And so what that means is that as he laid down his life and he trusted in the will of the Father to accomplish that which he was sent to do, we do the same thing. We are called to do the same thing, not to just lay down our interests, not to just lay down our comfort or even to lay down our will. It is to, what does he say? Give up my claim to my right to myself and to be identified with his crucifixion, which means that we are subjecting ourselves to the will of the Father, whatever that may be. I don't know. Maybe I talked in circles there. Hopefully that's a little better understanding of being crucified with Christ. If it's not, then I'm sorry. But yeah, it kind of stuck out to me today that being crucified with Christ is sometimes a little different than what we make it. So you guys have a great day.